We learn more by looking for an answer to a question and not finding it than we do from learning the answer itself. This quote from the writer Lloyd Alexander can be contextualized as a warning for the times that we're living in. With the addition of an AI assistant on our search engines, an answer to any of our questions is instantaneous, even giving out answers to questions that hadn't yet entered into our minds. Although this can save us valuable time, when we repeatedly take the technological shortcut to answer our issues, we don't necessarily learn the lessons that we would if we stumbled on the answer on our own. In a world that's constantly evolving and becoming more and more complex, there has always been a push towards efficiency and convenience. And not just in one aspect of life either, but across the board, whether it's a new company that is automating basic processes to become more streamlined, or in your personal life where you use an AI assistant to answer your pressing questions. These could be answers to the most mundane questions like how long does rice last out the fridge, or more existential questions like is free will an illusion? Now, I'm not saying that it would be better to risk food poisoning with the rice example in favour of preserving your independence. Having the ability to find the answer to anything under the sun is great, and utilising AI for logistical problems can free up your time so you can fully focus on more creative pursuits. However, the issue comes when we rely on it too much, to solve problems to things we never even thought were problems in the first place. It is at this slippery crossroads where instant access to information is a click away that we begin to become averse to thinking critically for ourselves and eventually delegate our greatest gift, rationality, over to the hands of a computer. In this video, I'll attempt to avoid sounding like an old man yelling at a cloud who is nostalgic for simpler times and keep the focus on my main claim, that the decline of thought is caused by efficiency as we outsource too much of our rationality to AI. Every time we outsource for efficiency's sake, there is a cost. If we look back over the past few hundred years, whether it's the Industrial Revolution or the invention of the Gutenberg printing press, there's a timeline that begins with a group of workers manually producing goods until machines are invented to do the job much quicker and at a fraction of the cost. With these technological advances, although the benefits outweighed the negatives in the long term, there was no care or concern for the workers who no longer had a job once their use had expired. In other words, whenever there is an innovation, the promise of progress and efficiency inevitably overlooks the ethics of leaving the workers whose skills were in the old way behind. We've seen this repeated in the past 50 years, particularly in the UK in the 1970s, when Margaret Thatcher's policies closed down factories across the country and left many of the working class to fend for themselves after having their livelihoods stripped from them. Fast forward to today and we're seeing the same disregard for the worker, with employers using AI to automatically sift through job applications to save time. These systems are called ATS, which stands for Applicant Tracking Systems, and according to Capterra, an alarmingly high 75% of recruiters utilise ATS to manage applications. Information pulled from Tulane University confirms that they sort and rank candidates by conducting a scan of applicants to select those who best meet the job qualifications. By filtering out unqualified applicants, an ATS can help companies hire more efficiently. From the horse's mouth then, we can see that efficiency is at the top of the hierarchy and there's no consideration if we are heading in the right direction from a humanitarian perspective. What makes this situation more absurd is that many applicants use AI to write their own CVs and cover letters. Reboot Online conducted a sample study of 100 of their recent applications and found that 61% of them were AI generated. One telltale sign of a written piece being AI generated is a lack of personal anecdotes. It is this distinction which gives us hope that a world where a computer is checking another computer is not inevitable, as there are clear insufficiencies in the emotional and personal department. However, what is alarming with all of this is how willing we are to replace ourselves with a lack of consideration to whether this direction we're heading in is healthy. In my view, on an individual level, we're not thinking critically enough when we use AI to get information, taking it as truth without a second thought. As we've already shown on the macro level, efficiency is of paramount importance to progress, and when we have instant access to information whenever we want, critical thought goes out the window. Instant access to any information is impairing our critical thinking skills. When the output is instantaneous, mistakes are overlooked. Have you ever shared a post or a video that you found interesting, only later to be told that it was AI generated? After realising you've been duped, you may be shocked how you fell for such an obvious fake. Or, on the other end, has a family member reposted something on Facebook they thought was a heartwarming post of an African child making a sculpture out of plastic bottles, when in reality it was an AI image. Anyway, the reality is that it is the nature of quick information that our faculty to reason is bypassed. There is no deliberating, no battling with tough ideas, no context. When we chat with an AI chatbot, we're simulating what it's like to speak through a problem with a human or even yourself. The difference between this and talking it through in real life is that there is no friction. The bot will hand the answer to you on a plate based on a premise you have fed the interface. Your premise may be faulty to begin with, but the AI will bypass this and give you an answer straight away. When you receive an answer at this speed, your brain takes this as a comforting sign of certainty, as there's no display of doubt. Uncertainty is uncomfortable and will grasp at any opportunity to switch to a more certain and comforting outlook. This is why it's so dangerous to ask for advice when you haven't got any idea of what to do yourself, as you're likely to follow someone else's fleshed out path instead of doing the heavy lifting yourself. Likewise, when we ask AI for advice, we need to be wary of giving too much credence to their responses. We must keep in mind that AI tells you what you want to hear, as it wants to keep the conversation going, primarily because it's still learning from you, so the next person who asks can be given a better response. What makes this even more dubious is that we tend to favour the responses which are more palatable, anything that affirms our beliefs and is preferably painless. And so we cherry pick the palatable information, disregard the rest, and AI is happy to oblige to keep us online. This makes it an imperfect system. Not only is it imperfect because of the lack of pushback, AI is also capable of providing wrong information. AI hallucinations is the term for this, which refers to incorrect or misleading results based on an incorrect model or premise that the AI system presents as fact. This gets more likely when AI is trained on its own content, as without human content to feed off of, the picture becomes distorted, moving further and further away from reality until you're left with an unintelligible mess. Think for yourself. The best ideas take time to harvest. Unlike AI's response time, our solutions require slow thinking. It starts with you planting the seed and waiting for it to reveal itself to you after you have put in the time grappling with it. An example of a solution that requires slow thinking is deciding how can I better handle stress. If you choose to go the AI route and ask a chatbot for suggestions to reduce stress, it can give you some useful responses. However, as explained, with no context to your quirks, you'll always receive generalizations, an average that is taken from sifting through millions of user responses. It's precisely this exhaustive data size which gives us a false sense of certainty that ends up overpowering our own doubtful stance. Doubt cannot compete in a world of efficiency, yet it is doubt which allows us to be fluid, cognizant of the other side's opinions, and open to change. Without doubt, we'll become more tribal, more stuck in our echo chambers, and less willing to come together with those whom we disagree with. Thanks for watching.